A door opens, and for the first time we walk into Limgrave. A miracle towers over us, gold and almost see-through. Could we touch it, feel it beneath our hand? To find out means passing through its living ramparts, the Erdtree sentinels. This mounted knight is clad in nigh unbreakable gold, and blessed by the grace of old. This boss defends to the death what we only reach at the end of a long quest. A tree that still remains a mystery. So why? Why send this defender all the way out here? If all defenders of the Erdtree aspire to be like this warrior, why task this warrior to fight us now? Because we are tarnished with vision. The Erdtree does not fear how close you are, or your strength, or an axe. The greatest threat to the Erdtree is those blessed with a vision of what could be. And a lowly tarnished blessed with vision is a dangerous thing indeed, for the seed of an idea can bring a world of change. For like all trees, the Erdtree can grow too large. Its boughs may snap under its own weight, it may be blown down by storms, and if the energies of life are ever lacking, dead wood will spread, dead, dry wood that can catch a flame at the slightest spark. But if it burns, what remains? What is the Erdtree? What do its symbols mean? And why is this miracle both real and unreal? You'll want to watch this documentary to the end, because there are some world-first lore reveals in this one. Long before the Erdtree exists as we see it today, there was life. This life arose from the chaos of the world and from its order. Life exists by both of these kami of nature. Life cannot live in total order. Life is defined by change. It cannot live in total chaos. It is defined by how it does not change. And all life has connections to all things. The wolf connects to the deer, but also through the deer to the river and to the ant. All things are connected like a tangle of endless threads, and these threads of life exist in all possible relations: food, shelter, recreation, life, and death, like a great web, as though all of life, from every creature to every inch of soil, was threaded through the roots of nature, like the roots of a tree of life. As life goes on, the roots of life grow and multiply. Their connections increase and fold. These roots are as real as the realities of the jungle, realities which run deep. They are the essentials. No life could exist without them. Heat, cold, pain, pleasure, hunger, food, energy, life, and death. To sustain life means having the tools to navigate all of these things, and some tools are absolutely necessary. As life goes on, the roots of life continue to become more complex. The wolf cannot overhunt, except to risk its own extinction. The adult must protect its child, or risk extinction. And the participants in life must compete, or risk extinction. Each life has its time, but death brings nourishment and space for new life. These basics are shared across all life as roots, and these roots connect in the tree of life. The tree emerges naturally, yet defines life with such beauty it seems to be crafted by the gods. Just as the stars in their orbits form order from chaos, the tree of life arises without any living mind directing it. In time, life gathers around the tree to worship it, a miracle rooted in the ground, a miracle that brings the bounty of life and the blessing of death, and all that passes between them to every creature, for no creature alone could survive. and so the tree is worshipped by all. This is the Great Tree, the original golden tree. Death is in the roots of this tree, just as life is. The roots are in many spirals of opposites. The roots are an endless paradox, but that is why life is a miracle. Life goes on, and early life can barely manage to survive, let alone change the world. But with time, life can influence its surroundings more. Slowly, life could change the world that built it, if only a little. Whether that was a nest or a tunnel, the basic creatures of life could impose their own order, and this increased as they competed. Change came faster and faster, as though the basic forms of life began crawling on their belly like a snake, and now grew hands, and more than gripping with hands, they also grew minds with which they could grip much more. Fingers, claws, hands, minds, all competed in the furnace that was early life. Strength, lust, parental instinct, hunger, every tool of survival was essential, and these beginnings of life today were like a crucible that forged life itself. Every living being fought in the heat of competition, and under the law of the jungle, beasts rule. Certain life forms succeeded, some died out, some became numerous and some scarce. And the tree of life grew larger, even as it shed a bough or a branch. Others grew, and new buds sprouted, and the sun, indiscriminate energy given to all who competed for it, bathed the tree of life. Each living thing was like a leaf competing for the sun. Each leaf fed the tree, and each leaf was fed by the tree, by the blind decisions of nature, the roots of the world. The tree was formed by no mind. In some living beings, the grip of the mind grew even more. The beast mind was beset by its instincts, by its desires, but intelligence gave greater insight, and vision could see another possibility. Adaptation not of one's being, but of the outside world, beyond a mere nest. In time, the scope of this realization grew, until it was understood that a plant can be trained. Nature is flexible. The currents of life can be directed if we understand them, and so the tree was cut down to regrow it anew, leaving a trunk with new shoots. But this time, we were gardeners of our own destiny. Another crucible of competition formed, but now there would be a guiding hand. Life cannot be tamed entirely, but it can be directed. And in this new furnace, the beasts of life would form something new, something different, fed by the blood of competition, life and death, and the great struggle to survive. They would form something that, just like the pot boys, may be better than its innards. For the Erdtree is Miyazaki's representation of society, a great tree that everyone is blessed by. Everyone can be safe in its shelter, blessed by its creations, and yet each member must sacrifice some of their energy, some of their nature, some of their soul. The storms of nature must quiet, and those who would threaten the stability must be defeated in war. But in the lands between, the systems of society, its structures and its dynamics are much more than in our world. The Erdtree in Elden Ring directs the vital energies of life itself, such as the power of this new age. The beginning of this new age is still tainted red. The crimson of the time of the beasts, of jungle lore, still glows. It is revered as an ancient holiness, the holy power of nature that brought survival, abundance, and even, surprisingly, society itself. After all, this new tree is still connected to the roots of old, the miracle rooted in the ground. And it is no coincidence, it couldn't live without these roots. It is just the tree atop the roots that has been tamed, altered to serve its time. The roots are much more vast and fixed than the tree, and so the early stages of the Erdtree is marked by this taming of life, like the early taming force of society. Life pushes through willfully, defying the order of this new age. Creatures show the closeness to the wild world in their own flesh, a sign of how close the border to the wild still is. Most importantly for this age, the fires of instinct must be cooled. They could burn the whole thing down. The snakes of lust, violence, envy must be beaten back and driven from the site of the tree. For those in society use hands, not fangs. They use reason, not aggression. And snakes, just like fire, are what may betray the Erdtree to its ruin. Guardians would watch over these potential traitors to the Erdtree, fires of ourselves that could never truly be put out. Despite being forbidden, they would always tempt those closest to them. The tree now reaches across planes, from death to life to spirit, from the underworld to earth to heaven, from the world of fundamentals to the regulating mind to the pure world of ideas, from the deep past to the present to the possible future. And as the tree grows, it will strive to reach heaven, to reach ideals, to become taller, more golden, to even take flight. And for a time, this great dream progresses. Members of society are numerous, and like leaves, they feed the tree. They sacrifice a little of themselves in service to the tree, and in turn are fed by the tree. The Erdtree is not just a parasite, it is a relationship. Just as we give some of ourselves to it, so are we protected by the society in turn. We sacrifice together so that we can become more than the sum of our parts. And some in society are not leaves, but branches. And some are even boughs. And just as in our society, some hold the power to direct what gives energy and what takes it away. Those in power of the Erdtree direct the energies of life itself. They literally give the blessings of life, distributing life's raw necessities to the faithful, rewarding those who serve society with most vivid coloration. Lives are no longer spent in service of oneself, but in service of all, in service of the Erdtree. This action is the soul of a hero. Even death is no longer the domain of decay or of fire, but of the tree. The nourishment of death that has for countless ages returned haphazardly to nature now returns to the tree in an ordered way. And this is done willingly, such is the faith in the Erdtree. For this society doesn't just take and return energy during each leaf's life, but will take it on death and direct this energy to where it sees fit. For the Erdtree doesn't make the energy for life, it directs it, forms it, orders it. The Erdtree started with a vision. The vision of those blessed with sight became a reality through struggle. This new society begins to also establish itself by diplomacy, a part of its growing toolkit. War masters would now have to act as a lord. But change leaves many behind, and some could see purpose for themselves in this changing world, and some did not. With the departure from the old world, some had the light in their eyes fade. The path to take became unclear, and the motivation to follow the path was barely alight. But some could see the path to a new era. Not all were graced with sight, but enough were, and enough followed them, and the world changed. The age brought honor, ethics, courtesy, sacrifice, virtue. The values of culture would bind all of its members, just as a great river that nourishes those who live near it. So began the era of abundance. Like so much in society that does not exist and yet brings its greatest abundance, faith in the Erdtree brought this era into life. Faith that giving would return more. Faith that self-sacrifice would bring more than the gains of shallow competition. Just as in our world, so much that cannot be held physically, the law, culture, currency, rights, it is shared ideas and beliefs that are worth more than gold. To uproot them would be a terrible fate indeed. And yet, individually, all of us give sacrifice to these things. The Erdtree's roots are physical, but much of the Erdtree is an illusion. But an illusion can have more force than what is merely physical. When up close to the Erdtree, the reality of its benefits are undeniable. It is solid gold. Far away from its influence, it fades and almost disappears. Lost faith causes it to fade, and should everyone lose faith, it disappears entirely, just like the grand golden illusions in our world. Graced by the Erdtree, life flourishes like never before. The blessings are poured on the faithful like a bountiful river. To defend the Erdtree is an honor, to serve it is a privilege. The elixir of life runs bright. Sap courses through its boughs, its greatest treasure. These resources are now centralized. The chaos and friction that was like a leaky bucket is now sealed away by coming together. The bounty of gold was reflected in the wheat of the great harvests. With abundance, more and more begin to see a lighted path. Grace begets grace. More and more were blessed in a virtuous cycle. More could see the great gold tree towering over, a miracle, a collective miracle of every member, and the leaders accepted their solemn duty, a blessing they would gladly bear forever. All did their duty, from leaf to bough. This sacrifice, from the rulers who chose to serve to those who milled the grain, meant this age would be long remembered. Those who did great deeds for society would be honored by an Erdtree burial, their essence feeding the tree much more than others thanks to this proximity, just as they had influenced the tree deeply in their life. A desire for the future, a motivation to achieve it, a vision of what's possible fueled this era, an era of plenty. But all youth is for a fleeting moment. Nature's first green is gold, her hardest hue to hold. Her early leaf's a flower, but only so an hour. Then leaf subsides to leaf. So Eden sank to grief. So dawn goes down to day. Nothing gold can stay. Ambition flourishes in abundance. The tree has grown so tall, surely the tree can grow taller still, but ambition can trip on itself. The heights we hope to reach in the future can be dangerous if you ignore the depths of the past. For the traitor to the Erdtree still lives in the roots, and centralization, order, and control brings abundance, but it also brings temptation. The snake of greed is tamed, but not killed. It lives inside of those who mill the grain just as it lives in their leaders. The Erdtree found its success early, but it took time to discover its risks. The benefits from control are enormous, but the wisdom of mind is different to the wisdom of nature, and not always better. Nature, for all its chaos, doesn't forget anyone. No one is lost in the filing. Nature is ruthless, but not bureaucratic. As the branches grow and grow in the tree of life, it can grow beyond the management of its own gardeners. Branches will be neglected and die, for no good reason other than bad luck. Those who suffer this cruel fate resent the tree and its keepers, and may wish for a return of the law of nature. Worse than this, those with the power to control the flow of life may become fickle when deciding who deserves to be blessed. The life that does not conform to an ever-tightening definition is cast out. Left with less and less faithfuls to sustain the tree, it fades. Growing higher and further from the roots brought great abundance, but it also brought a great forgetting. The roots of the tree are far below the leaves now, the leaves bathe in gold. The roots of nature and its wild, confusing coils have been disregarded for a good long while. The roots are still at work, they are just more hidden. The hero of the Erdtree is still driven by pride. The careful worded diplomat is still competing. Lust and greed still exist. They are just at work, quietly. But the fresh leaves are so nourished in the gold and rarefied air of the tall tree, they cannot believe the roots could be full of snakes. The foliage is bright and the roots are hidden underground. And abundance, after all, brings a lack of worldly wisdom. More serpents there are beneath the ash than an unwise ape would think. There can't really be snakes within us after all. It is mere myth. The Erdtree Society sees grace extending up higher, as though the Erdtree could take flight, as though we could live in the heavens as angels. Just like the tree, perhaps we too could become spiritual gold. We could transcend our vulgar roots. And so, the Society turns its hands upon itself once more, to influence what before was viewed as unchanging. Now, the Erdtree seals the cycles of life and death, and all the mess that drives it. Now, birth and death would be controlled by the same people who delivered life's bounty. There would be no abundance or space given by death. It would be managed. While these new changes are believed to be a sign of great progress by many, some have doubts. Some faithful see in their dreams the neglected roots leading the tree to wither. They see faithful believers in the tree becoming disillusioned as the bounty is squandered by foolishness. They see poor choices made to follow a false path. The prophets see the tree becoming dry and brittle as it misunderstands itself. They see it becoming like tinder, ready to light at the slightest spark. They see the tree burst into flames in their dreams, and they weep. For the most faithful see grace most clearly. They see the dangers first, and want more than anyone to prevent the wrong path being taken. But to share this vision means only to be driven from your home and banished. These prophecies cannot be shared in civilized company. To mention the roots is bad enough, but to say we should respect these roots is almost evil. Such beliefs are vulgar and have no place here as part of a tree that most believe can perfect itself. And so, those who love the tree most are cast out. Despite this, more and more have doubts as to the reality of the tree reaching the heavens. The gift of sight grows murky to many. Some cannot see a guiding light, and amongst all these ideal futures, there are more and more neglected leaves on the tree. But there is something yet worse. The bureaucracy of a leader's duty begins to reveal itself. It now weighs as a gnawing curse from which there is no deliverance. Perfect choices are impossible, and many are unhappy no matter what choice is made. The leaders begin to feel it is a thankless task, that they deserve more, and by this time the leaders have realized a new possibility.
Deliver me unto greater heights.
As the stewards of life, they can tap this resource for their own ends. What is a little here and there in the grand scheme of things? The tree is so vast, and a leader's duty such a mighty sacrifice. A little extra for their pains is justified, after all. Alas, every age, it seems, is tainted by the greed of men. A little skimming grows to a lot, and a fickle leader will take as much as the faith in them allows.
I command thee now! I am the Lord of all that is golden.
And so, the fallen leaves tell a story. Only the leaves closest to the seat of rule are still golden, but many other leaves are brown and falling. The tree cannot sustain itself, and as more and more leaves are neglected, the tree grows into its autumn. The leaves are becoming dry. Those neglected by the Erdtree Society are hurt, resentful. and ready to rise up. And those well protected under the tree's canopy are vulnerable to flame. For those unaware flame lives within them are ill prepared for its burn. Few could talk without banishment, but some took action in other ways. Some who saw the Erdtree's foolishness captured their thoughts wordlessly, in art. An artist looking upon a now delusional Erdtree called his painting Flightless Bird. The artist knew we are of the earth, more snake than dragon, and the artist also knew that to try to reach perfection when it wasn't possible brought ruin. For what is the reward for finding the flightless bird painting? Fire's deadly sin. The prophet despaired looking up at the Erdtree, for soon the kindling would burst into flame, bringing ruin. Some who were upset with how the Erdtree fiddled with the marvel of nature left to start new societies. The ancestrals moved to live far from the Erdtree. They formed their own culture. They trust in the wisdom of nature and do not try to outdo it as the Erdtree did. Many are disenchanted by the miracle tree. They barely see its gold at all. Its sap ceases to drip, and it becomes merely an object of faith. Some turn away from their homeland towards pagan gods, gods of lust, violence, greed, and gluttony. Even just beside the capital's walls, the old windmills that ground the harvest are tattered. Villagers who once took in the grain now turn to the snake and to fire. First, they skin their men, just as a snake sheds its skin to renew itself, and then they burn their bodies. They do this in the hope that they will be renewed with fresh life, reborn red and lustful, to start the life-death cycle once again, as nature intended, for they want children. Far beyond this now desolate farmland, there are Batwomen. They were meant to be mothers, but have been warped by time, twisted by the altered rules of nature. Now, all they can do is lament their fate. Some wish to bring back death indiscriminate.
This world is in dire need of repair, and death indiscriminate. Are you prepared to commit a cardinal sin?
Or even life in death, to replace the discrimination of the current rule. And in the heart of the volcano is a snake lord whose reach is growing. Sent to punish pagans, he instead saw the wisdom in the snake and gave himself to it entirely. He has grown large, and he is progressing into the next stage of life faster than the Erdtree is progressing to heaven. The tree is flightless, but the snake lord no longer crawls only on the belly, but has grown limbs and many fingered hands. For the Erdtree will find out, to become weak with delusion is dangerous. The fundamental root of competition, ever waiting like a coiled snake, will rise up, coil around its boughs, and bring the Erdtree down to earth. Much of what was brightly coloured is now tarnished, and as more tarnishes, more is sent away from the tree's grace. Many will no longer be blessed, through no fault of their own. The risk to the Erdtree of those neglected tarnished is great. If any were to understand what has happened, they could turn against the tree.
A tarnished of no renown.
And if one of them had vision, or was inspired by another's,
to stand before the Elden Ring and become the Elden Lord.
As with any neglected population, it is best to keep the tarnished sedated with sleep. The tarnished cannot be killed after all, but they can be kept passive with the right ingredients. The souls of the minor trees, named of all things Snake Soul, are becoming ulcerated and sick. Lacking the true motion of life and death, they are like a stagnant, rotting digestive tract, twisting and coiling like an injured serpent. It is when the roots are forgotten that they come closer than ever. It is when the house is unguarded that the viper creeps into the home. The order is failing. Just as at the beginning of its time, now too is the border of chaos rearing its head. There are omens that the age is failing. There are signs that the border of chaos is coming closer. The thorns of the old world are pushing through. This time, they foretell a ruin that the tree brought upon itself. For most long-lived trees such as this, its death is caused by its own success. Some faithful go on sacrificing to the tree, even if what was once a relationship is now all too imbalanced. Faith in the Erdtree now looks more like a shackle, but others are growing a new conception of how the world could be, of what orders could sustain. With enough understanding and enough influence, new orders can be created, and all that is needed to create space for them is death, for the miracle rooted in these grounds will once again mend the world. It just needs someone with thoughts and ambitions to gestate a rune. This rune must be possible, grounded in reality, not just an arbitrary wish. And sometimes, though it is hard to believe, tragedy is sustainable. Some visions may come to pass, but it is tough to know which could exist and which are fantasies. For any of them, what is always needed is someone with the brute strength to deliver the vision to its place. These competing ideas are growing in strength, and oracles signal the coming of a new age. Which system comes to rule the new world is unknown, but the Tarnished who slew the Erdtree Sentinel had the brute strength to reach the Erdtree. Whether it would be this Tarnished or another, it was inevitable the Erdtree would fall. Other visions for the future had become clear, and the old tree was broken down. In the end, it took so little to burn the tree.
Burn, for the sake of the new Lord.
It had been changing into kindling for a good long time. Once the Erdtree has burnt, it leaves only the husk of its trunk, the roots unchanged below the earth. In the panic of its death, the seeds of the old society are cast far and wide. The seed, the richest part of the fruit, carries its values, its culture, its system. The old age's system of life. The age of plenty was sealed in those seeds, with the potential to live again. They grow as illusions of gold far and wide. Many will have faith in these nascent illusions. After all, the past is more likely to return than the present realizes. Much yearns to return to what once was, and this young gold is far from kindling. But if the present is not left to chaos, then a new illusion can form upon the husk of the tree, upon the roots of life. A tree of vision, each one unique, whether a vision of the past once more, continuing all as it was, a divided time, an age of fracture, of gold and fading, of leaves yet falling, or an order where the leaves do not fall, or an age of despair, or an age of the duskborn. All these visions can become a new tree, for these runes do exist, they have been gestated and are possible, whatever the consequences. For if the death of the Erdtree taught anything, it is that ideals, however divine, may bring death. The game of survival is always being played, no matter the scale. A new age begins, but the past does not vanish in the next age. It lives on in more than seeds. It is all around us in the new age. It is like ash coats the ground. It looms over us. It fertilizes the earth of the new tree. It is in ourselves. It is in the air we breathe. It is in the streets and in our homes, no matter how we try to seal out the past. The ash of the past can only be dispersed with time, and at the coming of another age, some ash will still be there, only to be buried yet deeper by the ash of another society that has fallen. But the fallen leaves tell an even deeper story. They fall from the Erdtree, but where else are they falling? The whole Altus Plateau is in a deep autumn. Where are the leaves green? Far away from the Erdtree. The Erdtree is literally drawing the energy of life from leagues around it. Why is the Erdtree drawing so much? Why is it draining the entire land around it? We now understand why the ancestrals chant trees far from the purview of the Erdtree. They are focusing life's energies into a single tree. For it is just as we said, the vitals of life are like energy itself. They cannot be created or destroyed, only gathered and dispersed. Look at the trees that flourish in gold, that grow tall. What is all around them, and on the map? On all the smaller trees, fallen leaves, death. It is life from death. The vitals of life cannot be destroyed, but can be moved. And the Erdtree is doing this at an unprecedented scale. Which leads us to something foreign to this land, just like the Erdtree itself. When we seek to replace the current order, we must fight a god, but to kill this god leads to a fight with a beast. The fight takes place on another plane. Here, there are golden trees, many trees that are half invisible, great golden illusions, but all of them the same. These trees are not the color of despair or of dusk, or of any of the many orders that could be. They are all the color of the Erdtree we know. Do you see? Look at the tree, the roots, the ordering of them by rings, the original great tree of life, cut, and the Erdtree atop it, a tree of illusion, and at the top of this tree buds a port, connecting to other worlds. The fallen leaves tell a story. Our land is not the innovator. It is not the first to create a tree such as this. We have been brought to this stage by the guiding hand of the agents of Empire. Our system is a product, brought by a beast on a star, sent into the lands between. It is a product that has worked before elsewhere, a system grafted onto our yet developing world. And with this system in place, the resources of the lands between can be tapped, the energy harvested from it. This brought abundance, but only initially. It is part of a larger plan to draw the life energy of an empire. The system is grafted onto our land, and now the life can be drained like a tap. Faith was won amongst those in the lands between with the early success of this system, but is this faith justified? Each new realm conquered could be given the illusion of abundance simply by taxing the previous conquered lands. Perhaps Marika was right to question her faith. Such a beast is far beyond comprehension. Is it just a predator, a parasite? Or is this just the early, bestial stage of something greater? Like the blood spent to water the tree in the old times, is the fading of the lands between a temporary sacrifice before a great empire of trees can take place, sharing the energy of life across worlds in a new age of abundance? Perhaps the future will come in its own way regardless, as though guided by the hand of a greater will. Or perhaps it is up to the tarnished to decide whether you feel blessed as though born at the foot of the tree, or cast out from grace. Would you hold faith in a beast that a greater order is coming, even as your life wanes? Or would you break the connection? Or would you rather feel nothing at all? Whatever your vision, tarnished, a choice must be made. There is a great competition in visions, and they crisscross like disordered grace. Whatever your vision, perhaps just like the painter, it is best to wrap your message in art. Art whose message will only be unlocked long after the rulers have allowed it into the hands of the tarnished. If you made it this far, consider supporting the channel and get early access to upcoming releases, feature your own theories on the channel, or even get access to new Lore Before Bed videos ad-free for less than $1. Your support makes content like this possible, so thank you.